So someone asked me to make a video about the way I communicate with people, persuasively. And I'm sitting here thinking like, do I really want to do that? What if my friends watch this video? What if my friends see that I'm just screwing with them all the time? And it's really not that bad. I've been studying persuasion and psychology for pretty much my entire life. And now, the way I communicate tends to be persuasive without even thinking about it. Now, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here. I'm just trying to say that there are ways to ask for things to get what you want, and I want to share 3 tactics you can start practicing today. Hey, what's up? I'm Derek Halpern. You're watching Planet Derek, the place to go to learn how to get ahead in business and life. And today I've got 3 things to share with you about how to communicate persuasively. The first thing, I love this way, by the way. It's called the good option, the really bad option. That's the name of the technique. It might have a different name. That's what I call it. But here's what happened. Me and my video guy, Mark, walked into Italy, and he wanted to get a regular coffee. The problem was the regular coffee line had like 50 people on it. Well, maybe not 50, but it felt like more than 3 people, so 50 people on it. Now, I personally didn't want to wait on that line, so I told the video guy right then and there, I was like, look, the espresso line has no one on it. Why don't we go there to get a good espresso, or would you want to wait 15 minutes on that coffee line? And he said, all right, let's go get the espresso. Now, again, he's sitting here looking at me right now and he's laughing because, hey, don't give me the finger. He was laughing when it all went down because I was like, do you see what I just did there? He goes, yeah, listen, man, I'm around you all the time. I know your tricks. But this whole idea of showing people a good option, like do you want to get a good espresso or do you want to wait online for 15 minutes, helps you persuade people to what you want just by how you frame the option. Now, you can use this in all sorts of ways. You can use it when you're communicating with people. You can use it in sales presentations. You can use it when you're trying to compare and contrast options with a potential prospect or customer. This whole idea of good option versus really bad option helps you show how good something could be in your eyes versus how bad something is in their eyes. This next technique is something that I didn't invent, but it's called, I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called like a negative affirmation. But here's the deal. I have sleeping problems if I drink caffeine after 7 p.m. at night. But I'm a coffee snob. I love coffee. And if I'm out to dinner at a nice restaurant, I want to try their coffee. The problem is, if I drink caffeine after 7 o'clock at night, I'm going to have sleeping issues. So I'll always ask for decaf. But then you have a predicament. Because how do you know if they're giving you decaf? You could assume they're doing the right thing and they're going to give you decaf. But people make mistakes. And if you're a bad sleeper when you get caffeine and you have something important the next day, you should be careful about this. So the question is, how do you know if you're really getting decaf? Well, this is where the negative affirmation comes in. When the waiter comes by and gives you the coffee, you could say, this is decaf, right? And at that moment, he may say yes. Because yes is easier, and he doesn't want to put himself in a position to disappoint his client or his customer. Now, I'm not saying all waiters do this. Great waiters will always correct themselves if they made a mistake, of course. But you don't know if this is a good person or not. So if you give them the opportunity to give a positive affirmation, like this is decaf, right? They're going to say yes. However, you're better off putting them in a position to give a negative affirmation, like this. This is caffeinated, right? At which point it's on them to not say yes, but to actively go against what you just said and say, no, that's decaf. This idea of getting people to correct you is a way to ensure that you're getting what you want. This idea of offering a negative affirmation versus a positive affirmation. Now, you might be wondering how else you can use something like this. Well, again, the best time to do it is when you're going to ask someone if they did something and they have an opportunity to lie to you about it without you knowing the difference. The third technique is known as the apples to oranges comparison. Now, everyone knows what an apples to apples comparison is, when you're comparing the same thing to the other thing to try and show people it's the same thing. But when you're trying to persuade someone, an apples to apples comparison may not be the best solution, which is where the apples to oranges comparison comes in. For example, let's say you're trying to persuade someone to buy a new car and the car payment is $300 a month. You might say something like, well, that's $10 a day, which is like, all right, you're breaking down the payments for someone, but it's still money to money. Mind you, you're breaking it down for a monthly to daily, but it's still money to money. Now, an apple to oranges comparison might be simple as this. It's $300 per month or $10 a day, or really the cost of a cheap lunch every day. Wouldn't it feel great to just roll up to work in this remarkable looking car at the cost of a cheap lunch? Do you see how an apples to oranges comparison could help bring context to an argument? Now again, you can't go overboard with these types of things. However, it's important to put this in your repertoire. You can't go overboard with these types of things, but it's important to put it into your persuasion repertoire. Let me give you another example. I was talking with a company who wanted to fly me out across the world to do some consulting around some branding and marketing strategy online. And I was thinking about doing it. And they were trying to get a feel for my pricing. Now here's the thing. I never did this type of consulting arrangement before where I had to fly 18 hours to some other part of the world, do a consulting gig for like 2 days and then leave. Now, I usually don't do this stuff because I don't like to travel that much. However, it was to a new country I'd never been to before, so I was considering it. Anyway, I never did it before they asked me my price. So all I said to them was this. If a company wants to fly me out and have them give a 1-hour keynote presentation, my rate's $20,000 a keynote. Now in this case, it's interesting because it's not an apples to apples comparison. This is a consulting arrangement compared to a keynote presentation. Obviously, it's different. However, I wasn't sure how to make an offer to them, so I offered this apples to oranges comparison as a way to anchor myself at a certain point. Now here's the thing. A lot of people try to anchor themselves with lies. Don't do that, right? I actually get paid this, so it's like you always want to anchor yourself with a true statement. But you can use that apple to oranges comparison as a way to set the stage. Now, I hope you found this video valuable. Actually, if you did, like this video. If you're new here, subscribe to my channel. And if you're already subscribed and you didn't hit the notifications bell, why not? Do me a favor, leave a comment below this video and tell me which technique you're going to use today, or tomorrow, or next week, or you know what? Lie to me. What will you pretend to use? Just leave a comment. Show me you're listening. I'll see you in the next video.